Good evening, everyone. Joshua Severe Weather, and happy Sunday to you. Got a special video now with potential Tropical Cyclone 6 gaining steam very quickly here across the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. And we are starting to see the risk for a hurricane strike on the western Gulf states climbing. This would be the third hurricane to hit the Gulf Coast region so far this season. And even though it's been an underachieving season, at least in the last month, it is certainly one that has seen quite a few strikes, and we continue to have that concern with this next upcoming system. So hurricane hunters have been flying into the system, and they're finding some interesting data, and I wanted to share that with you and how that's going to craft this forecast. So we're going to take a look at that here first. Obviously, another Gulf hurricane strike is imminent. The official Hurricane Center forecast does have this getting to hurricane intensity before landfall, and I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit and who's likely to see the strongest winds. So right now, potential cyclone number 6, winds are at 50 miles per hour, a broad system. It does not yet have an actual center that we can track, kind of multiple features that are kind of rotating around each other, but strong winds with them and certainly a lot of warm water in place. So this will probably take a little bit more time to organize tonight and tomorrow before it gets the name Francine. Now, we're going right past tropical depression to probably moderately strong tropical storm once it does get that name, and maybe even close to hurricane strength compared to what we're seeing on some of the models. And as a result, I do expect that we are going to see hurricane watches posted for Texas and the Louisiana coast, probably sometime tomorrow night or maybe first thing on Tuesday morning, but probably tomorrow night as this system continues to gain intensity. We're going to show you more of the stats on it in just a bit. Just wanted to show you guys the world here first, and this is the official track of 6L, potential Cyclone 6. Two other areas that we're watching here that have some pretty good chances of forming into a depression, Invest 92L and Disturbance 3. And across the Pacific, watching an area for potential development near the Mexican Riviera heading towards the Baja Peninsula, another area southeast of Hawaii, not likely to take up too much time here of our energy. And in the Western Pacific, Yagi is still spinning up over northwest Vietnam and Laos. Fortunately, no longer a tropical system, but a lot of rain still falling. And we do have potentially another system forming here in the Bay of Bengal, and that may continue to impact the east coast of India here over the next few days. Here's the Atlantic. This is potential tropical cyclone number 6, wind speed 50 miles per hour, moving slowly northwest at 5 miles per hour. The next feature is AL92. This is an area of interest that models are now running on, and there is a decent chance this could become a depression in the next couple of days. Something we're going to have to keep an eye on here across the Leeward Islands. 70% chance it becomes a depression, maybe even a storm, although it is going to be meandering a little bit here for the next couple of days. And then behind it, we've got another trough that may spin up a potential developing system. It's going to take some time here this upcoming week, but a 50-50 chance of development over the next 6 days. We do have, if you take a look at the map here, this is 6, and I'm going to click on it here and show you guys the forecasted track. I'll come back to that in just a second. Here is, whoops, I'm sorry, I thought I had it open here. But here is the official track from the Hurricane Center. The potential for it to be a tropical storm expected to be one by lunchtime on Monday, and tropical storm force winds are mainly on the western side of this, impacting the Mexican coastline and the open waters here. The storm is expected to move slowly northwest and then slowly curve along the coastline, and this could shift a little left or right. Today's models have shifted left a little bit, closer to Texas and northeastern Mexico, but it's very possible they could go back on the right side of this. Till it forms, we're going to have that uncertainty, unfortunately, here a little bit longer, but the official forecast does have it making a bend and kind of paralleling the coast of Texas here, and landfall sometime Wednesday afternoon, potentially as a hurricane, although it may start to weaken a little bit as it comes on shore due to increasing wind shear, but I don't necessarily think we need to expect that to happen. We should prepare for a more intense system and just hopefully we'll get lucky on it. But it will continue to move and weaken over the Mississippi River Valley Thursday and Friday. Probably some severe weather as well on the eastern side of this feature as some dry air aloft gets wrapped into it and adds some wind shear to the whole feature that is moving inland. So something that we're going to be watching over several states here over the second half of the week. We do have a tropical storm watch for northeastern Mexico. This will probably get extended up the Texas coastline here sometime later tonight, tomorrow morning. But the official track has this landfall point here after 1 o'clock on I think it was Wednesday, yeah, near Cameron, Louisiana, just west of Cameron in southwest Louisiana, an area that got hit twice back in 2020 with Laura and Delta. Obviously, if you're in Texas, Houston is in this window, as is Sargent and Port Lavaca and Matagorda Bay, areas that have been hit already. And unfortunately, this could shift a little to the right and put Baton Rouge and New Orleans on the right side of this system as well. There's going to be a significant threat for some rainfall right now, at least a slight risk of flooding, but it's been so wet here in the last couple of weeks that it's not going to take a lot. So obviously, we've got to be concerned with that. It's beautiful out there today and no risk for flooding today across the Western Gulf. Overnight, we may see that climbing a little bit in the lower Rio Grande Valley, including Brownsville, Matamoros, Mexico, Port Isabel. Also a marginal risk for flooding here across portions of Florida where this front continues to be camped out. But tomorrow, we are going to start to see that risk climbing a little bit more along the Gulf Coast. Not yet to Houston, but deep South Texas, that risk climbs. The central Gulf Coast sees that risk at night. And then as we head into the day on Tuesday, into Tuesday night especially, a slight risk for flash flooding across the entire Texas coastline and the entire Louisiana coastline all the way up to Interstate 10. That will continue to advance northward as we get on into Wednesday and Thursday. Some key messages for you guys here. This system is forecast to become a hurricane. Now, it may not be a pretty one, as we've got a lot of disorganization, and it's still way too soon to say exactly where this can go, because as you know, the coastline of Texas makes this a very challenging forecast. If it goes west and it rides the coast, then obviously that's better for Louisiana, worse for Texas. If it goes east, that spares Texas the worst and brings the worst into Louisiana. Still chances for that to happen, of course. But right now, there is some potential for some significant storm surge and damaging winds for upper Texas and for the Louisiana coastline, well to the east of where the center comes on shore. So if you are in low-lying areas on the Gulf Coast, Galveston Island, and places like Port Arthur and all the way over to the Atchafalaya Bay, especially around Grand Isle, you may be potentially considering some evacuation here, depending on how quickly this thing does come together. It could certainly overachieve. And obviously, heavy rain is going to be a big threat as well for us here, with the potential to see 4 to 6 inches of rain along and north of I-10, 6 to 8 over southwestern Louisiana, including St. Bernard Parish and the Sound here, and potentially even over a foot of rain across maybe the immediate coastline, depending on how this ends up evolving. So here's a look at things here. We're going to talk about what's going on, what the forecast looks like, and you can see it's obviously a very messy blob at this point. There's a couple of different circulation centers, really 3, based on what we're seeing here, and this is kind of a closer look at that. And Tropical Tidbits is getting hit up hard, I'm sure, as you guys can imagine. But here's the visible on it, and you can see there's kind of some different areas that are spinning up. Kind of the main area expected to take shape here is where these thunderstorms are beginning to continue to grow here, but there's also a bit of a circulation here. And let me take you back one graphic here to the visible, or to the Gulf of Mexico. There's a bit of a circulation still here along our front, which is kind of focused like this. So we've got kind of a very sloppy system, but one that's producing a lot of wind, kind of 3 different areas. This is the front. This is an area of some strong wind here and thunderstorm development coming and going. And then here's another circulation. So we still need everything to consolidate before we can classify this as a tropical system. Now, Recon have been flying through this, and I'm going to kind of circle some areas for you. You can see this is a center that was found. This is a center that was found. And it looks like maybe there's a weak little center in here as well. Kind of tough to say because the plane hasn't been on the northern side of it. All the strong winds right now are actually near the Mexican coastline. There's very little strong wind just to the east of all of these centers. Right here, winds are pretty light, only about 10 to 20 miles per hour. Right here, they're very light, and very light up here as well. So obviously, we don't have a tropical storm yet, but we do have tropical storm and storm force winds over here with 50 to 60 mile per hour winds showing up here at flight level. So we've got some time before this can still generate a core. Now, as these clouds in here continue to grow, we are going to be watching to see if winds do start to respond to that. As the pressure starts to drop here slowly, we've got to wait and see if the winds will respond. Once that happens, then this system has a very good chance of becoming a hurricane, but it hasn't happened yet. As you'd imagine, it's only been over water for a little over a day, so it's still got some time to lick its wounds before it can get itself into a spot to strengthen. Now, models, as of their latest run, have shifted a bit to the west. We had more yesterday going into southwestern, south central Louisiana. Today, a few more going into southeast Texas. But you can see they are fairly tightly clustered. This is not going to hit Mexico and not come back out. It is making the turn around an area of high pressure over the eastern Gulf. This could certainly come into Galveston. It could come into Lake Charles. It could even come into Lafayette. Still a little bit too soon to make that call, but we're watching trends to see where everything is taking it. The ensembles shows strengthening here. You can see some lower pressure showing up here from the GFS ensembles, some down below 980 in this area and here. So obviously it's going to have some chance to strengthen here. Looking at the ensemble prediction center or system ensembles showing kind of the same thing where this will strengthen as it comes on shore. These are the average pressures, but a lot of different solutions, which shows some stronger intensity. These are tropical models all showing some intensification. We have a couple showing rapid intensification between now and in the early evening or late afternoon tomorrow. I think this might be a little bit too aggressive, but I do think we are going to see more gradual strengthening. I am going to show you the GFS model, which is probably the most intense of all the models, probably the worst case scenario, but I'll show you some other ones to kind of keep it so that we're not skewing just towards the strongest solution here. But here's the GFS. Oh man, I lost my graphic. Here's the GFS, and you guys can see, here's probably what, oh, okay. Levi changed it on me, as you'd imagine. It was an invest. Now we've got an actual potential cyclone. So you can see the pressure tonight drops a little bit down to about 1,002, 1,001. But as we get to tomorrow afternoon, it starts to finally deepen, and we start to see more of a concentrated center here east of Tampico, Mexico. The storm continues to move northwest, but now you can see on Tuesday, it is going to start to bend more to the right. This keeps at enough of a distance to the Mexican coast where it can strengthen. You can see the model is showing some rapid intensification here tomorrow, Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning. And this is probably too strong. 965 millibars seems a little bit too strong, even 957. But what if it's right? This would be a little bit of a later solution coming in later Wednesday afternoon, and especially Wednesday night to southwest Louisiana. But this would be a powerful system, a category 2 if this is correct, and then weakening as it moves up towards Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and Natchez, Mississippi. That's a GFS model. We'll see if the latest run even shows that, because it has not been very consistent. All right, here we go again. I had loaded everything up from 91L, and now we've got, oh man, we've lost it, but it's a potential Cyclone 6. I lost everything. All right, well, that's okay. I'm going to show you guys a different website. This is Weather Bell. This is the HAFS tropical model. It is also showing some gradual intensification here in the next 24 hours, but take a look at this. We are seeing, again, this is a tropical model. It's not the crazy GFS. It's showing wind gusts may get up to 92 miles per hour by this time tomorrow afternoon and evening over the Western Gulf. So it is, in fact, showing a consolidated hurricane at this point and continuing that as it comes close to the Mexican coastline. Now, this stays south of Texas through Tuesday afternoon, but then Tuesday night, it is paralleling the south coast of Texas and then heading towards the upper coast of Texas. And as we head on into Wednesday afternoon, we see winds intensifying here and wind gusts potentially exceeding 90 miles per hour. This would be a pretty healthy system, more than just a low-end Category 1, maybe even making a shot at Category 2. It eventually has a storm coming in late Wednesday night, close to midnight, near and just west of Cameron in Louisiana, very close to where Laura hit back in 2020. A lot of those folks there are still rebuilding and probably will be quite a bit more if we continue to have storm after storm here across this area. So you can see this could be a direct hit on southwest Louisiana, maybe far southeast Texas as well. And it's a little too soon to say if we actually have a bona fide hurricane or a system that is getting close to that intensity, but maybe losing steam as it comes in. But I would prepare for the worst. I always tell people, prepare for maybe a Category 1 higher than what maybe the official forecast is. And right now the official forecast is for Category 1. So prepare for 2 at this point. Let's obviously pray that it's only going to be a 1 or even less. Here's the GFS showing that strong area of wind gusts, and you can see over 100 mile per hour wind gusts over the open waters. This would potentially impact those on the oil rigs, so I think, or the oil platform. So I think if you want to be smart, go ahead and get your gas now, because if they have to evacuate, then obviously that's going to lead to less supply than what we need and higher costs. But you can see here the GFS brings these strong winds into central Louisiana, Lafayette, New Iberia, Morgan City, even Baton Rouge, potentially wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, maybe even as much as 80. And even up into Jackson, Mississippi, if it gets as strong as what the GFS is showing. Here's a closer view of that. And you can see the winds aren't going to be too strong through Tuesday morning or through Wednesday morning, but then as we get to Wednesday afternoon, especially Wednesday night, that's when the winds could be at their strongest. But this is just one model. It's very possible this could get shifted west by 80 to 100 miles. And then you got Beaumont and Lake Charles in those strongest winds, maybe Alexandria, maybe even Natchitoches and those areas. Or it could shift a little bit to the right still and put those stronger winds closer to New Orleans and Homa. I don't think that's quite going to happen, but it's certainly still a chance of it happening until we see this system actually form and models latch on to what's going to be the actual core here. So this is a look at our wind potential. Here's a look at another model, the European ensemble control, and it is not far from what the GFS is showing. We've got two global models showing this now. Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, wind gusts approaching and exceeding 100 miles per hour offshore and 60 to 70 miles per hour inland to places like Baton Rouge and New Roads and St. Francisville, even up to Natchez and Macomb, Mississippi, could see strong tropical storm force winds. So even though this system will weaken as it comes on shore, at least I think it will, it could still be moving at a speed where it's going to bring these winds well inland into the Delta region here sometime on Thursday. The other concern with this is going to be heavy rainfall, and you can see it starts to spread into places like Brownsville, Matamoros, McAllen, Texas, 2 to 4 inches of rain here. Not too bad here through tomorrow until you get into Tuesday, and then we see the rain advancing northward across the Texas coast and Louisiana coast. And not to forget you in Florida and Alabama and Mississippi, but you're going to have some more heavy rain as this front retreats right back to the north. It's sitting there and bringing a lot of coastal convergence and a lot of heavier rain rates here for the first half of the week. It'll get worse as we get into Wednesday night and Thursday across Louisiana, Mississippi, and even southeast Arkansas, but we could see significant amounts in places well east of the center, including Pascagoula. Maybe Mobile, Pensacola, even Tallahassee could see some locally heavy rainfall through the end of the week. All right, so that's it on this system. We're going to revisit it tomorrow as we get more data, as we get closer to this event taking shape. But the rest of the tropics are waking up as well. We've talked about this for weeks. In my opinion, it should have happened sooner, and it didn't. I'm okay with that. But you can see things are pretty busy here. We've got a boundary here across the southeastern United States. A lot nicer weather here across much of the eastern U.S., but we've got more rain heading up into Nova Scotia, a bit of a weak low pressure. That's going to clip the eastern part of Nova Scotia and head into Newfoundland. We've got a disturbance that is just east of you in the islands here this evening. And then we've got two features that we're watching here for development, two tropical waves. This one has the better chance of forming into a depression or storm in the short term. This one may have better potential in the longer term, and another wave set to come off Africa after that. Things are definitely getting a lot busier here across the Atlantic. Here's a look at the Northwest Atlantic real quick. Nice day in Bermuda, but definitely a flare-up going on here north of you. This will probably not become anything tropical at this point, but it is going to bring heavy rain again into Atlantic Canada for the start of next week. You got a one-day break, and here it comes again. We're going to continue to have cloud cover on the southeast coast, more rain across northern and maybe central portions of Florida. Bahamas are looking great here, and you can see in the Caribbean, we are again turning pretty wet here across the Leeward Islands, northern Windward Islands, and the flow here is actually converging out of the southwest. So this is going to spread heavier rain into the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico in the next couple of days, but nothing organized expected. This is AL 92. This is our next invest, and then off the map, but soon we'll see another one, probably 93 here in the next couple of days. Here's a look at what's come off of Africa, and again, two waves that I think are still kind of struggling a little bit, but they're low enough for there to be some potential development. This is the one I'm going to talk about here in the short term. You can see Africa's got more waves coming, unfortunately. So this is Invest 92L, and you can see it's going through some cycles. It doesn't have a low-level center just yet, but it is showing some signs of organization. Right now, it's not really moving much. It's actually kind of stuck, but should resume a westward motion on Tuesday. A lot of spread on this, a lot of possibilities still, and not just spread on the track, but spread on intensity, as you can see with the ensembles. So it's really early in this formation stage to say where this may end up going. We have several models that don't develop it much or keep it fairly weak. You can kind of see that in here. And then we've got a couple that start to take off as maybe wind shear drops off here towards the end of next week. Again, we're going to have to wait a couple days before we can get too advanced on the forecast on this. Here's a look at what the GFS from earlier was showing, and you can see not really a whole lot going on just yet until we get towards the following week. Then we start to see more favorable development. But this system here was being modeled a few days ago coming up into North Carolina, and you can see it's about 2,000 miles east of there. So again, as much as I do want to study the GFS, I just know it doesn't do a great job once we get too far out in our time frame here. So that is what we're looking at. But as always, I appreciate you guys. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm from Louisiana. I've got my family keeping a very close eye on it. If you are watching from Louisiana, you guys know that you're vulnerable to these kind of storms. You also know that these storms can strengthen faster than what models show. So you know what to do at this point. Don't get freaked out, but certainly keep a close eye on it. And once we know, we're going to have to freak out if it is going to be the case. But if you did enjoy this video, I'd appreciate it if you consider becoming a subscriber of mine, become part of a community. Feel free to share any weather questions you have. I'll try to answer them at a reasonable hour here today and tonight. But as always, I thank you guys, and I give all the honor, all the glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who has put me here on earth and given me more than I could ever believe. It's just a blessing every day to go on as a follower of Christ and to know that I was created by God. And as a result, I just wanted to share that good news with you guys, because there was a long time in my life where I didn't have any hope. I didn't have any positive encouragement. I put all of my faith in other people who of course let me down because they didn't know any better. And I don't fault them for that, but the Lord will never let you down. If you choose to believe, good things are coming. Mark 16:15-16, Jesus told his disciples, not Paul, I'm talking about Paul, but Jesus told his disciples, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. You've got the choice to believe that. You've got the choice not to believe that. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I made a decision a while ago in 2013 that I wanted to believe and be saved and not to be condemned. And I'm just going to leave it right there. But just know that I'm here to encourage you. And if you have any prayer requests, I will never stop praying for you. Please feel free to share those if you'd like. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I'll catch you up here on Monday. Take care.